But we have two faces to show you today. The other is the closely controlled chaos here at Westworld for the 2020 Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. Get ready, we got 8 hours of live coverage coming at you right here on Motor Trend. Thank you for joining us as we begin day 4 of our coverage, 38 hours in total on Motor Trend and Discovery. Right now I'm inside the Equidome, which is a new display room for Barrett-Jackson, and testament to the fact that this auction gets bigger and better every year. I'm just inside from the staging lanes, and that's where my main man, Rick DeBrule, is hanging out.
Well, Chris, the staging lanes is the last place where the cars gather before they roll up onto the block. And I have to tell you, this place is filled with nerves. There's nerves from the consigners, the people who brought the cars to sell, because they have no idea what it's going to sell for. Once again, no reserve when it gets up on the block. And then, of course, there's the nerves from all the people who are bidding on the cars. I've actually seen bidders who have followed their car all the way from the staging lanes, walking all the way through, looking at it one last time, hoping that they can be the highest bidder. But the thing they have to remember is they're not alone. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bidders filling this room. And so it's going to be a competition, a battle. Can the guy who followed it all the way win the bid? Or will it be one of these people who take it away? And of course, once it gets up here, well, that's where Mike Joy, who's of course a very busy guy, will take over.
Oh, hi, Rick. Right here is where these cars get their final wipe and shine before they go to center stage. And once they leave this spot, well, then it's hammer time. The announcer describes the car to the crowd, to the bidders, using the information on the car card. And then Joseph Mass, the auctioneer, takes over. He's the captain of the ship. He runs the show. While that car's here on the block, we'll be looking it over, talking about what these cars were like back in the day. What separates the quality of this one car from another that looks very similar. And the fellow with all the details is my longtime broadcast partner, Steve Magnante.
We had thundering Thursday yesterday. This is fabulous Friday, and the amplitude and the quality of the cars increases today. And the thing I love about cars is that they don't talk. That's because it gives us a chance to talk for them. And that's what we'll be doing all day, describing the details for you at home. So you have the best seat in the house, and let's get it started right now with this beautiful street rod.
This is gorgeous. A 1937 Ford 5-window custom coupe. You don't count the windshield, of course, so that gives you 5 with the door windows, the rear quarter windows, and the back windows. This one with a significant chop, a custom 5-window body on this.
And this one has a power hood, which just came open. And this one has a small block Chevy. And this has a supercharger. Actually, not a supercharger. They have that's a 2-port injection system, which has a spacer under it to look the height of a supercharger. But all fiberglass. Nothing here was built in 1937 at Ford, but that's okay. It's sleek and it's beautiful.
I hope you can see the very, very subtle ghost flames on this body. The car is a nice metallic blue. The ghost flames are in 2 different shades of purple. And that natural leather-looking interior, this is gorgeous. We're at $80,000 and likely headed higher.
The side pipes poking out from in front of the rear tires, subtly integrated into the rockers, running boards.
It's getting close to $100,000, and even before we came on the air today, we have had 7 cars cross the block at more than $100,000. Will this make it? Not quite. $95,000, but that does make it the number 10 sale of the day so far. Although, as we often say, early in the day, the number's only going to climb. Yesterday, we saw a ton of $100,000 cars go across the block, and today there will be even more, because it's Fabulous Friday. As we've talked about oftentimes, the quality of the cars every single day goes up, and of course, as the quality goes up, the prices go up. Center stage right now, a 1967 Corvette big block, 427, 390 horse.
Well, look at that Stinger hood in contrasting color to the rest of the car. That's how you know it's a 67 big block, only year for the Stinger on the mid-year Corvettes. This one has been judged by the National Corvette Restorers Society. Steve Davis holding the blue ribbon and some of the magazine articles about this beautiful car.
And this one is a numbers matching car. It has the L36, which is the entry-level 427, if there is such a thing. Has a hydraulic cam, oval port head, smaller valves, hydraulic cam. But again, 390 horsepower is nothing to sneeze at.
From behind, you know it's a 67 because that backup light above the license plate was a one-year-only feature.
This is a side pipe car. Below the tail lamps, we'll see that there are no cutouts here for the standard dual exhaust, which would pop out. That's a detail that's often overlooked with folks who add side pipes to a Corvette, but this is a factory side pipe car. And again, it's numbers matching, which is why we see this number.
Now, the top of the line of this series was the 427 435 horse. Those are $150,000 cars all day long. Let's see if resale red brings us up to that level.
Well, right now, this is now the top seller of the day so far, still going at $140,000.
Up front, we'll see the license plate is in the center of the grille. If this car had air conditioning, which was an option, it would be located here on the driver's side.
Closing in on $200,000. Look at this, 190, and that gentleman right there has not flinched. Every time somebody outbids him, he takes it up again. And there we have it, our first $200,000 retail sale.
Ever since the dawn of car collecting, rare high-performance cars restored to as original and judged with provenance. They ring the bell, and it just rang loudly.
Blue chip cars bring blue chip money. All right, time to check in with the newest member of our Motor Trend crew. Here's Amanda Busick.
Well, Rick, believe it or not, I could actually hear those cheers from inside all the way out here, and you can sense the anticipation for this fantastic Friday all around us. Check out this excitement around the 1971 Plymouth Barracuda convertible that's going to come your way. I couldn't even believe it when I walked out here into the staging lanes with how many people are around and excited about what's happening in Scottsdale today, and I bet there are people at home just as excited. You guys come and hang out with us. Join us on social media at Barrett_Jackson, at Motor Trend, and send me around this place at Amanda Busick.
Yeah, Amanda's had a lot of fun. People write in, say, hey, what about this car? She goes and finds it, does a feature on it, and everybody has a lot of fun before it's all said and done. Quite an education in all the cars that are out there. Well, didn't quite make 200 on that one, but pretty impressive numbers. That is the number 2 sale of the day right now, $150,000 for a 67 Corvette. All right, we got one more member of our broadcast crew we're going to check in with. You know this guy, Dave Kindig. Welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I got an invite to ditch a snowstorm in Salt Lake City, Utah, come down and get warmed up, and there's nothing warmer than this truck right here, lot number 1035.1. It's a 1965 C10 pickup. What I love about this thing, the LS3 under the hood, the color of this truck is just oozing coolness. I actually want to paint something myself right now. I'm inspired, this color. And I really do like also this chocolate colored interior. This looks really nice. It's a great contrast. This truck's a pretty fresh build, only a few years old. And some of the other things that really kind of remind me of some of the Kindig design built vehicles is especially on a truck like this in the step buds, I really like to see a step side bed custom built. And this one is top to bottom custom built. It has air ride, 24 by 15 inch wheels, a full custom undercarriage is just beautifully done. Somebody's gonna love this thing. I wish it was me, but you know what? I'll just let you guys watch it go, and I'll just be out here working, enjoying the weather.
Yeah, you're a working stiff. I know. Yeah, you're also the host of Bitchin' Rides, which is a great program and quite an eye for hot rods. So when Dave Kindig says it's caught his eye, it's worth looking at. 1957 Corvette, current bid $135,000.
Arctic blue, silver comb, shoreline beige interior, restored to original, and another six-figure Corvette.
Six-figure Friday already, $135,000 for those folks right there. Well, we have 8 full hours of Motor Trend coverage of the Barrett-Jackson auction today, all on Motor Trend. We're going all the way until midnight Eastern time. Tomorrow we come back for 8 more hours. 4 of those will be on Discovery, starting at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And then picking up at 8 o'clock until midnight, we're back on Motor Trend. And then on Sunday, the last 4 hours of our Scottsdale coverage, all on Motor Trend. Make sure you watch every single minute. Check that out. All those Ford GTs, yeah, they're all no reserve, and they will cross the block over the course of the next couple days.
Barrett-Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit barrettjackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
A fabulous Friday already delivering. Check this out. This 1969 Chevy C10 just crossed the block, sold for $150,000. That's the #1 truck sale of the auction so far. And that was followed by this 1963 Corvette split window, only 56,000 original miles, and it sold for $155,000. That is the #2 and #3 sale of the day, and I have to tell you, they were selling for hours before we came on the air. And so every single car in our top 10 at this point was at least $100,000. Up on the block now, a 1947 Ford Woody station wagon.
Well, next at the end of the line, 4 Woodies with structural bodies on them. 1947 saw a change in the marker lights going from up top to down below the headlamps. This one has a Ford flathead, a 290 cubic inch stroker, which means it has a scat 1/4 inch stroker crank. So that's a lot of torque out of that flathead.
3 of these in a row, and I like the period surfer decals, including some from the California Surfers Museum here, because that's where a lot of these Woodies found their way, were to the beaches of Southern California. The Jan and Dean song Surf City began. I bought a 30 Ford wagon, and we called it a Woody. And after that, everybody around the country did too. 3 of them in a row here at Barrett-Jackson.
A lot of maintenance with these Woodies. About every 2 or 3 years, you're going to want to revarnish and sand the woodwork, unless you're lucky enough to keep it indoors in a climate-controlled environment. Same goes for the roof, which is sort of a plastic leatherette, and that is actually not steel. That's the thing that also required a fair amount of maintenance. About every 5 to 10 years, you're going to be wanting to change that if it's exposed to the sun.
And the classic surf Woodies, I mean, that salt air would just brutalize these things back in the day. Getting these right is not easy, so when they are nice, they're worth every single penny. $52,000 for a 1947 Ford Woody wagon. Okay, you say you like the Woody wagon, but the 47 wasn't your favorite one? How about a 48? Because that's what we've got rolling up right behind it.
Yeah, just a little different. This one has had some modern conveniences added. Let's call it lightly resto-modded. It's not black. It's a beautiful dark blue, and it has nice natural-looking, natural leather bucket seats, front and rear, and a Chevy LT1 V8 under hood.
And this is the last year for what some would call the potato styling era. 1949 brought a whole different animal, the envelope style. This has the, as you said, Mike, an LS type engine and a modernized suspension. These things had transverse leaf springs and live axles front and rear when stock. So this one's been thoroughly updated underneath. I like how it's a nice blend of originality and modification.
I call this one the nicest of the 3 that just came by. That bifold tailgate, the top half opens up, the lower half opens down, just like most all tailgates up until the Ford Magic Gate of the late 60s, early 70s. That could be open one of 2 ways. This one is a lot nicer than it was born inside. Very well done.
You know, we talk about resto mods. I think the classic resto mod is a car that looks stock on the outside with modifications inside. And that's exactly what you've got here. That great modern engine, a lot of modern conveniences in the dashboard underneath, and yet still looks almost dead stock on the outside.
The roof on this one has been changed. The other had that factory original type stuff. This is a Hartz fabric. A little classier, but certainly not as good in the rain.
$52,000 for that 1948 Ford Woody Resto Mod. I'm checking with Chris Jacobs.
Hey, that's my boy Gary who just bought that car. I'm out here in the McGuire staging lanes with this beautiful 21 window bus. It's 1967. Now, I remember a few years ago when Dave Kindig, who's helping us out today, shattered records with his bus. This one's pretty nice too. I want to show you the motor first. That's a 1776 cc motor right there with the dual carbs on there. Very special. And as we come along the side of the bus, you can start to count the windows with me. Once again, the final year of the 21 window. Get a look inside of that beautifully restored interior. It's got that convertible top too. Let all that nice sunshine in. And then if you come around the front of the bus, you can see what makes this one special. This was the final year for the 21 window split windshield, which this is right here. Comes from the RPM collection, and it's going across the block soon. Should do some big numbers the way this one's been restored. Guys, back to you on the block.
Yeah, I can remember it was originally back when we were doing the auctions in Orange County that we first saw the Volkswagen buses start to pop. Then in Las Vegas a couple years later, and now they are mainstays here at Barrett-Jackson. 1961 Corvette, currently bid $85,000.
Red with white coves, wide white wall tires, red interior. 283 with fuel injection, 315 horsepower.
That's right, that's the big deal. The fuel-injected engine costs $484 extra. This is the one you want.
$85,000, the final number for that Fuelie from 1961. Behind it, Hot Rod Time, a 1932 Ford Highboy.
This one has an 8BA flathead. These were built between 1949 and 53. These are 239 cubic inches, a very different animal versus the 221 flathead that came out in 1932. This one's dolled up with Offenhauser heads, a trio or a pair of Strombergs, a lot of chrome. In fact, the block has been polished and painted on this thing. Beautiful.
I just melt when I see period speed equipment, such as those Offie heads, the multiple carburetors, the headers, just the way it was done in the 1950s once these became surplus for daily transportation, and the hot rodders had their way with them. This is an incredible build.
Yeah, steel body, and keep in mind either factory original stuff, darn near 100 years old now, or you can get aftermarkets from Real Deal Steel and outfits like that. Inside we see transmission. This is a manual transmission, probably a 5-speed, I would bet, out of a Ranger.
How about the Buick-style finned drum brakes? The fins for cooling, big drum brakes on this, just as it might have been upgraded in the 1950s.
Well, you know, Mike, I mean, to your point, these look like Buick drums, but that little tiny vent right there tells us these are actually SoCal Speed. There's a disc brake hiding inside of there, but you knew that. But again, that's a trick that it adds the effectiveness of discs, but the look of the drums.
We're at $62,000. Thank you.
$62,000. We had a phone bidder involved with somebody down in the skybox as the person who eventually came away the top bidder. And they're dancing up there. Nice car to be able to drive away in. Coming up in just a few minutes, check this out. A 1990 Toyota Supra. That's right, the Supras have arrived. That one, very low original miles. It'll be up on the block here at Barrett-Jackson. Well, the bidders are here, and I can tell you they have been waving their hands, waving their cards, bidding right and left. We've had a number of cars already top more than $100,000 for the day. The top sale so far, a 1967 Corvette that went for $200,000. Up on the block right now is a 1971 Barracuda Hemi convertible. This one, though, is a recreation. It's the one that Amanda previewed for us just a little while ago.
Well, that's right, Rick. Only 7 were built in 1971, so we're the only way to have one of these things realistically is to clone it. This was born a G-code 318 two-barrel small block, but again, the car doesn't know the difference between the real thing and a clone. It's got a 426 under the hood now, 4-speed.
Big billboard stripes on the side. Not a lot of contrast between the flat black and the metallic blue, but each of those billboard stripes started out with the displacement of the car, except this one. It just says Hemi.
One detail we'd like to see that we don't is the Dana 60 rear axle. Anytime Chrysler built a car with a 426 and a 4-speed, the big old Dana was used. This is the 8 3/4. Again, this car is not going to be drag raced, I'm sure, but that's a little detail I would correct if this were mine. I put a dame in there.
Yes, it's a recreation, but a lot of work went into building it. Nova time, a 67 Nova. This one, though, exceptionally customized.
Well, it is. This one has a VIN, starts with a 115, which means it started life as a 6-cylinder. 116 would be a V8, but presently has a 383 cubic inch LS, which is an iron block with a stroker crank.
Novas were highly prized for the, let's call it the stoplight Grand Prix of America. They were lightweight. You could stuff a big motor in them, and they could be made to hook up. So when the light went green, off you went and collected at the next traffic light or at the ice cream stand or wherever.
This one has had a leaf spring elimination kit, I should say. It got 4-link in the back with coil overs, stainless steel fuel cell. Drip rails have been shaved off the body, which is a great thing for aesthetics, but on a wet day or so, you'll get some water on your shoulder with that trim job having been done.
Wait a minute, you take this out in the rain? I think that's an important thing we have to clarify right here. I don't think you're very likely to get rain dripping on you.
I like the 6-speed manual, always a sporting touch. This is an automatic.
Well, we got a bidder in the skybox, and he said no, but the bidding assistant is talking to him, saying, "You sure about that?" Nope, goes to the floor. $77,000. All right, now it's time to sell a car for a great cause.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is our first charity car of today. Let's take a look at the video monitors.
The Arizona Animal Welfare League is Arizona's oldest and largest no-kill shelter, rescuing more than 4,000 dogs and cats every year from across the state, rehabilitating them, providing much-needed medical care, and helping them find their forever homes, going above and beyond for every animal in their care. For almost 50 years, AAWL is the comprehensive community resource for those passionate about animals and animal welfare in Arizona.
Here is the Marketing Communications Director for the Arizona Animal Welfare League. Welcome to Barrett Jackson. You brought a friend with you.
I did. This is Atlanta. And I want to say that the sale of this car will save countless homeless animals. Thanks to the Abrams family at Reliable Carriers, this certified by Hendricks, Hall of Fame Jeff Gordon, winning NASCAR is going to allow us to help save over 4,000 animals every year. Every bid, every dollar you raise will help us take in vulnerable animals, abused animals, animals that need a home, and you are going to help them find their families. Thank you guys so much for your support.
Thank you. Thank the Abrams family for donating the car. Tell them a little bit more about this special NASCAR.
And don't forget to think Atlanta, especially think Atlanta.
Here's lot number 3002. Again, not street legal, sold on a bill of sale. 100% of the hammer price to benefit the Arizona Animal Welfare League, which is Arizona's oldest.
So this is a very special car in that Hendrick Motorsports built this car specifically for road course racing. This is not a converted short track car. Jeff Gordon raced this car 3 times, and on the 3rd such occasion, he got his first road race win at Watkins Glen, New York. You can see the big intakes for the brake ducts, all of the extra cooling, the fuel filler on the opposite side. It could be switched for Sonoma or for Watkins Glen. But what happened after that is pretty interesting. This stayed in the Hendrick collection for 2 years. Then it was sold to a collector, the Abrams family, and the only time it's ever been on track since, it went to Goodwood, England for the Festival of Speed. Very special piece of NASCAR history here.
How many puppies does that come with?
I know to get down 275. Where? Hey, 275,000. I don't know to get down 275. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're also to the winning bidder. We're going to throw into the Hendricks Motorsports Museum. We're going to give 3 guests and the buyer 2 tickets to the Hendrick Motorsports Museum in Concord and complimentary transport from Reliable for the vehicle. All right, 250, 75, and 275.
And as we always point out, the check is written to the charity directly. There is no buyer's commission.
So
that $250,000 will go directly to the Arizona Animal Welfare League. Another impressive charity sale. All right. Company President Steve Davis already has his eye on something else, and I know it's a shock, but it's got a Shelby name attached to it.
Lot 1039.1 is a 1999 Shelby Series 1 convertible. The Series 1 was the only car designed, engineered, and built from the ground up by Carroll Shelby and Shelby American. I know a lot about this car. Matter of fact, I was actually on the original production team of this car, so it's quite a piece of art. This Series 1 is 173 of 249 produced by Shelby American and is powered by an IndyCar aluminum Aurora Northstar V8 engine with a 6-speed manual transmission. This unique Shelby-designed supercar has 4,012 actual miles with a title in transit.
Barrett-Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit BarrettJackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
They're so shiny. So many beautiful rides going across the auction block here in Scottsdale. Such a beautiful day out here, and you know what? It feels like a Saturday, and we're only on Fantastic Friday. I mean, check out all the people behind me taking in all the sights here at the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. The action's heating up inside. Let's kick it back to my main man, Rick DeBrule.
Well, thanks a lot, Chris. And up on the block now is that truck that Dave Kindig previewed for us, that 1965 C10 Custom, current bid $60,000.
Radically modified. I love what's happening under the bed here. The rear suspension on this thing is just as exotic as the rest of it. Very cool. Multi-links.
And that's the hammer price, $60,000 for all that work. Nicely done, and away it goes. Well, we talk about how the hobby changes, and changes as new people come in, and especially as generations begin to change. And the car rolling up behind is a perfect example. This is a 1990 Toyota Supra. This is a turbo Targa.
Well, with the new Supra coming online just about a year ago here, the Toyota Supra joins the Datsun 240Z as the first really collectible Japanese sports cars in America. And this is the top-level spec with the turbocharger, with the lift-off Targa roof, and more importantly, this one has less than 100 miles on the clock.
Well, this is an example of the third generation Supra, built between 86 and 93, called the A70. And this is the first of the Supras to cut ties with the Celica base platform. Remember, the first couple generations were essentially Celicas with larger engines, sometimes independent rear suspensions. But the good thing here, this is the turbocharged car with a 321 horsepower versus 220 for the naturally aspirated. So these were finally getting some real horsepower.
Still has delivery stickers on it. Plastic has been added covering the seats. I don't believe that would have. Well, no, that says dealer must remove before delivery. That could well be original to this car, but we're at $75,000, and we got there pretty quickly.
Apparently, it was originally sold up in Alberta, Canada. On August 31st of 1990, it's been sitting in a collection ever since. And it's been nicely cared for in that collection.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
The shipping information is still here as it went to the dealer. Wow.
$80,000, the price for a literally brand new 1990 Toyota Supra Turbo Targa. And it's been sitting there ever since it was sold. Don't forget, go to Barrett-Jackson.com, and that's where you can find out what other Supras have sold for. Just type it in. You can get all the historical numbers of Supras that have crossed the block here at Barrett-Jackson. Of course, you can see the entire docket of cars yet to cross the block. And this 1967 Volkswagen 21 window is the one that Chris Jacobs previewed for us, and these have a following.
Look at that front ornament of the VW emblem. It's almost as big as you'll find on today's Cadillac Escalade. The opening windshield for ventilation. And these extra windows up above the doors, they are called clerestory windows. There is no need for you to know that unless you spent part of your life playing with trains.
1967, final year for this styling cycle, at least for this part of the world. These were all discontinued in production in other parts, Brazil, etc. But for export here, we got the second generation, which was called the Type 22, or the Clipper in 1968. Quite a highly evolved version of the bus.
Now, there are now recreations of these. You can get kits to add the 21 windows to a regular bus, but this one is said to be a real deal, and you can look on, there's a thing we call an M plate, which is behind the driver's seat that lists all the details. It's not in the VIN number, but the M plate will tell you whether it's real deal.
Speaking of real deal, I don't see any extra pipes popping out of the back, so I would guess this is an unmodified example.
$73,000, the final price for a 21 window bus from 1967. All 21 windows, and that 4-cylinder motor go cruising off into the sunshine, because it is a sunny day here in Arizona, and rolling up behind it, the 1937 Ford Custom Coupe.
Just beautiful lines on this one as the body looks almost draped over the wheels at either end. Gleaming Gorky paint, brilliant chrome, very sharp 5-window.
Like what's under the hood, this one has a Gen 3 Hemi, 5.7, actually a 6.1, hoping to get it open. And it's a surprise to see a Chrysler in one of these street lines. So often we see an LS. Let's take a peek under this one with the chassis there. And there's that beautiful reproduction grille. Up bottom of the big 6.1 Hemi, there's the Chrysler 4-speed automatic transmission. Stainless exhaust systems right and left, looks like. Box frame, aftermarket stuff all the way around. Some transmission coolers, those aluminum extruded items. Ford 9-inch rear end with a polished center. Coilovers, body colored 10. Beautiful.
5-speed automatic transmission. Shaved handles. AC vents. Leather upholstery. Beautifully reimagined.
I like the copper detailing of the spokes inside of the wheels. Works really nicely with the burgundy body. Again, taste. Very, very, very tasteful. And it goes without saying, this is a fiberglass body. One of the type that you can buy these days. Easily pick up the phone. Nothing here produced by Ford in 1937.
Bidder on the floor, bidder up in the skybox. Closing in on $100,000, not quite, $90,000. That's the price that John just paid for a lot of custom work on that 1937 Ford Custom. From 1937 to 1967, a Chevelle Custom.
Yeah, this is a 2-door hardtop, no badging on the grille or on the fenders to indicate what engine it might have been born with. Gonna have to go to the VIN to figure that one out, but as the hood comes up, boy, there we see a nice tune port injection. Chevy V8.
This is the LS2, all aluminum. This is the factory intake manifold, which is made of plastic. Here's the factory drive-by-wire unit right there. There's a little rheostat on the bottom of the gas pedal, which activates the motor inside of there, which makes you go down the road. No more cables.
Lightweight wheels in the front with small disc brakes, indicating this one was built to go down the road 1/4 mile at a time.
The VIN on this one starts with 136, not 138, which you'd see on an SS 396. This was born a V8, but a small block car, which in 67 meant either a 283 or a 327.
So this car, as born, would probably be about $40,000 tops. But by resto-modding it and improving the performance, we're seeing more than double that, and we're into six figures.
Yeah, it's getting to be a thing wherein restored cars are not worth a fraction of a modified car.
$100,000 for a 1967 Chevelle Resto-Mod. Nicely done. We're going to stay in the 60s. We're going to stay in the bow tie world. We got a 1969 Camaro ZL1 Copo recreation, and this is one of the cars from the Vault Portfolio collection. We saw some of these cross the block tomorrow, and we'll be seeing a few more cross the block today.
Well, this is powered by something very cool. Back in 2008, Chevrolet celebrated the ZL1's anniversary by releasing 69 all-aluminum 427s. These are called the ZL1. This is not the original winter stuff. This is actually a Chevrolet Performance crate engine, a serial numbered engine. This one here is number 28 of 427 built.
Now, since then, the Copo cars are back. Chevrolet's building 69 of them per year to commemorate the car that this purports or would hope to be. And one of those brand new ones is going to sell here. John Force Special Edition Copo Camaro will sell later on today.
Speaking of special editions, those 2008 reproduction 427s cost $20,000 each. And that's not a cheap crate engine, but again, aluminum block, aluminum heads, aluminum intake, all of that stuff. And 20 grand is what they paid for this engine back in 2008.
The beauty of the Copos in many ways is their simplistic look, and they don't go over the top in terms of eyeball appeal. It's what's underneath that makes them special.
That's right. The Copos were based on Camaro Sport Coupes, not SSs or anything like that. That's why we don't see the SS at the back, and we don't see any other stripes or anything like that. These are streeters, but again, they were meant to be converted quickly into superstock straight-line drag cars. Bill Jenkins had one. Jungle Jim Lieberman even had a Copo 427 Camaro door slammer.
Now, the Copos were not limited to special high-performance cars. If you ordered a fleet of police cars, those would be part of the Copo program, the Central Office Production Program at Chevrolet.
It was used for a multitude of things. $80,000, that couple very happy to come away the winner. We are going to take a quick break, but we have so many cars left across the block here at Barrett-Jackson, and 7 full hours of coverage right here on Motor Trend. Okay, so you say you can't afford to buy a bidder's pass or buy a car. Well, then you're still in luck, because the Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction has to be considered one of the greatest car shows on the planet. 1,950 cars, all of them spectacular, and they're all lined up. And once again, for a general admission ticket, you can walk around, enjoy, and maybe think that one of these days you'll be a bidder here as well. Up on the block right now, we've got a 1959 Corvette, 283 cubic inches, 270 horsepower.
Well, the bare wheels on this with the poverty caps alert us to the fact this one has the RPO 684 big brake option. And in road racing, horsepower is one thing, but the ability to stop is the other side of the picture. Big brake cars had finned drum brakes with scoops to direct air at them. And that is the term for the big brake thing. This is the dual quad, 283, 270 horsepower, solid lifters, aluminum intake manifold. 1959, Chevrolet decontented the big brake option. 57 and 58, they actually cut some ducts into the body to direct air through passages, and even eliminated the fiberglass wall below the headlights. But so for 59, they reduced the price and the content. Let's take a peek if you can see some of the fins on the drum brakes. Yes, you can see right there, left rear drum. See those fins? Those are cast in. Those are basically heat sinks. They take heat that generated from the friction and dissipate it into the airstream. So those are pretty rare parts, the big brakes.
Even though Jaguar had debuted disc brakes at the 24 Hours of Le Mans almost a decade before, Detroit was a little slow to catch on.
That's right, Mike. You know, disc brakes wouldn't arrive until 1965 in the realm of the Corvette, but better late than never. wheels on these are 15 by 5.5, half-inch wider than standard Corvette.
$47,000, the hammer price on a 59 Corvette.
Barrett Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit BarrettJackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
Just before we went to our commercial break, Steve Davis was talking about this car. It's a 1999 Shelby Series 1 convertible, and he pointed out he was part of the development team for this car.
Well, after Shelby and Ford parted company, Carroll Shelby, well, he had deals with Dodge and then with Oldsmobile to provide the power plant for this bespoke sports car. I don't know what went awry. Was the car too expensive? Was it too complicated? Did it just not have the racing provenance of the original Cobra? But these did not sell in the numbers that they hoped for.
Well, speaking of which, you think about rarity. 427 Cobras, 348 built. These only 249. But then again, keep in mind, for the year 2000, government regulations regarding side impact, all those things got stricter. So I'm thinking part of the reason these were discontinued was that. And I know they built some of these after the fact as kits. You had to power them, so maybe that's how they got away from the trouble with the Go.
That's basically because they had parts left over from the original run. I think there were a couple problems. First off, the car came in heavier than I think they were originally anticipating the car was going to be. And it didn't have quite as much horsepower. Plus, it had an Oldsmobile engine, and GM went through some shifts. The people responsible for this program were no longer there. I think Oldsmobile just wasn't as interested in partnering on this project.
But now, all that said, now they are coming back into their own as collectibles. We're at $77,000. A real 427 Cobra, like Steve mentioned, would be 10 times this price. So if you want a genuine, real Shelby, well, here you go.
And the reality is the only full real Shelby, the only car built, designed from top to bottom. And yes, it's got an Oldsmobile engine in it, but it's not a car they took from someplace else and modified.
Well, that's right. These things are entirely made, the castings, the aluminum, all. It's not a kit car. And this one's not supercharged, which might be holding it back a bit. We will see a supercharged Series 1 sell tomorrow.
Back in the day with Carroll, phenomenal cars, 50-50 weight distribution, Aurora powered. This car is worth a whole lot more money. Somebody's got a heck of a buy. Don't miss it.
72. And that is Steve Davis, who bleeds Ford blue when he's not wearing his hat as president of the Barrett Jackson Auction Company.
And it sells $70,000 for a Shelby Series 1. Time to check in with Amanda Busick.
Rick, thanks to this extra long hood on the L29 of Cord, it is strikingly distinctive. Underneath this hood is a straight 8 engine that would put this bad boy in 1930 up to 80 miles per hour. It would just take a little long at 4,600 pounds. There were only a little over 5,000 of these put into production, and they say only 6 are left in existence. Guys, lot 1100 will be coming to you later this afternoon.
And the thing to think about with that car is, yeah, it's capable of 80 miles an hour, but think about what the roads were like in those days and what it would be like traveling at 80 miles an hour on those roads. A 1970 Pontiac GTO convertible up in the block right now.
This one's kind of cool. This has the first year 455 HR. Now, the 455 you would think would be the top dog engine. Now, in 1970, the Ram Air 4 was still the big dog. The 455 is an interesting engine. It's under square, meaning that its stroke is longer than its bore. Not a good recipe for RPM. So these are torque monsters.
Watch this number climb, as this is one of 158 built 455 HOs, and it is matching numbers. What that essentially means is it still has the engine it was born with. The engine numbers match the chassis numbers and the documentation for the car.
These make 500 foot-pounds of torque, about 60 more than the 400. As a result, the rear axles in these are specific to the 455. These have a Canadian-built McKinnon 12-bolt, which is similar to a Chevy 12-bolt, but not quite the same.
And that one just sold for $73,000. Just a couple days ago, we saw a 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge rock the block and was the high seller that day at $150,000. In the Mopar world, it's a 1970 Dodge Challenger RT convertible.
Wow, pretty in triple white, exterior, interior, and convertible top. Looks very much like the Challenger used in the movie Vanishing Point. Great Barry Newman cult film, Cleavon Little. But this one's a drop top and more under the hood.
Indeed, this has the 383, which is the base engine in Challenger RT. I don't see N96 for the shaker, so on the fender tag, so I'm going to assume this has been added, and that feels like an aftermarket shaker. They do make reproductions which are close, but not exact to the original pieces. This one has the torque flight, the slapstick automatic. And 1970 and 71, the only 2 years for Challenger convertibles.
Sitting on the dash, we see the broadcast sheet, or a copy thereof. This is a sheet that was printed out by Chrysler, and it sat in the rear seat well, so that as the car went down the assembly line, every option and every feature is detailed on this sheet, so the assembly line workers knew how to build this car to the order.
You know, one often overlooked fact is the fact that 1970 is the only year you could get a Challenger RT convertible. 1971, no RT, so Challenger, if you wanted a big dog muscle car, drop-top Challenger, 70 was your only chance. You see here the Bumblebee Stripe, which was first seen in 1968 on Dodge performance cars. They had this whole thing, the Scat Pack, the cars with the Bumblebee Stripes. And it's back again about 5 years ago into the current day.
In the collector garage in my mind, I want to build a 70 Challenger TA convertible, a car the factory never built, but I'd love to have one.
Well, and that's the beauty of Barrett-Jackson. Sooner or later, we see just about everything roll across the block. If you've got a convertible, you can just make it happen. As it rolls away, we're going to check in with Chris Jacobs.
Thanks, Rick. I'm out here in pre-staging with a beautifully restored 1968 Ford Mustang GT 426 Cobra Jet. I'll let you see that for a second. Now, we hear the term one of one a lot in the collector car world. Well, what does that mean? It's got to do with the options. For instance, this Mustang right here is only one of 17 painted in this beautiful Highland green. It's also only one of 4 with this Ivy Gold vinyl bucket interior. It's only one of 2 with the traction lock rear end, and it's only one that was ordered with radio delete. So that's what makes this car one of one. Hope that explains that for you. And we got a lot more coming at you from Scottsdale for the 2020 Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. Stick around.
Barrett-Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit barrettjackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
Back here in Scottsdale, it's an absolutely beautiful day outside, but I tell you what, it's a great day inside with all kinds of great stuff crossing the block, like this 1972 Cheyenne truck that just sold for more than $60,000. And check this cab over from 1939. A lot of custom work went into this.
Well, kind of like Alfred Hitchcock on wheels. Anybody old enough to remember him? But this is an LS1. But was once a 5-ton Chevy truck. Probably had a stake bed on the back, maybe a box, maybe a tow truck. But it's been transformed with a half-ton Chevy pickup truck frame, air suspension, and again that LS1 V8.
So this cab-over engine design was primarily built for city delivery, working in tight quarters, around close corners, and parking right very close up. You wanted that driver as close out to that front bumper as you could get him. And then also within that length, it left room for a longer bed in a maneuverable truck. A concept taken well to extremes here in this great Resto-Mod.
Yeah, according to the consignor, this one actually started off life as a tanker truck. Tank is long gone, but you can imagine with that big tank, it would be important to have that cab over with the narrow front to get through the corners.
Yeah, back then the engine would have been a 6-cylinder overhead valve, and the magic of gear multiplication is how they would have had that 90 or 100 horsepower move, potentially a 9-ton load up and down the road at a maybe 40, 50 miles an hour maximum speed. Beautiful woodwork inside of the bed, stainless steel strips between. Takeoff on the original flooring.
Well, the driver enjoys a very high seating position and a great view of the road. Bucket seats, automatic transmission, and he's right up there over the motor box.
there you go, $87,000 for a 1939 custom cab-over pickup truck with that LS1 running gear. Well, we got tons of customs, great trucks like that one. We got supercars, and of course, at every Barrett-Jackson, we have tons of pony cars. And well, we sent both Steve Mugnante and Amanda Busick out to check out the various versions and eras of pony cars.
Amanda, it's hard to imagine it's been 55 years since Ford invented the pony car segment with the Mustang back in 1965.
Well, Steve, you think the competition that came after that, and 5 decades later, the interest in ponies are still really strong. But you're going to kick it off for us. Let's go back.
For the first couple of years, Mustang was strictly 6-cylinder or small block V8, but for 1967, Carroll Shelby grew the GT350 into the GT500 with a 428 big block and dual quads. The pony car became a muscle car.
Well, Steve, while the classic is awesome, take a look at this bad boy. This is a supercharged 5.4 V8 that produces 1,000 horsepower under the hood of the 2012 Super Snake GT500. With only 1,250 miles, almost $200,000 was put into Lot 1052, making it truly one of a kind. But Mustang wasn't the only game in town.
After having the pony car market to itself for 2 full years, Mustang finally got competition in the form of the 1967 Camaro. Now, while the Mustang was only available with a small block for its first few years, in 67 you could get a big block Camaro. Trouble was, that big block was heavy. So for 1969, Chevrolet launched the ZL1. This is one of only 69 built, and the magic of the ZL1 is its all-aluminum engine, incredibly rare.
While an all-aluminum block may have been a rarity in 1969, they are standard in all Camaros. This Yenko Stage 2 2019 outputs 1,000 horsepower. That's double of what your ZL1 was, Steve. So powerful, it's not even street legal in California. So whatever your flavor is in ponies, whether old or new, they're out here in full force in Scottsdale.
Yeah, ponies everywhere, including that Pontiac Firebird Trans Am that's about to hit the block. That's from 1969. Rare beast, 400 cubic inches, and that'll be here very soon. Meanwhile, right in front of it, well, another pony, a 1969 Camaro.
And a very special one. This is a Born As Z28, upgraded with the dealer-added dual quad cross ram induction, the D80 spoiler package, Fathom Green. No console on this one, but this is a very special car.
Indeed, yeah. 2 600 CFM Holley double bumpers on a little 302. That's a lot of carburation, but this was done to homologate this intake manifold for road racing. On the streets, you'd want to have a really steep gear in the back and a credit card with a big limit for the fuel you're going to be burning.
They did approve this for use in the Trans Am series. It was very successful, and it was quickly outlawed.
$85,000 for that double pumper, 2 carbs on it, 1969 Camaro. All right, just a moment ago we showed you that Firebird Trans Am. It is up on the block right now, a 1969 body-off restoration.
You have to go back to the 1950s for this color scheme. When every country was given an international racing color, America was assigned white with blue stripes. So in 1969, if you wanted a Trans Am, they only came looking like this.
And speaking of standard equipment, all of them had this wonderful ram air system. You can see the filter element built into the hood as opposed to being on the engine itself, something only seen elsewhere on the L88 Corvette. But here is the original factory stuff. This is a real Trans Am, 1969, the birth of the T8 right here.
1 year later, the Trans Am got an all-new body and a new color scheme. You could have white with blue, or you could have blue with white stripes. That's it.
This one has the M20 wide ratio 4-speed. That means it has the 252-to-1 first gear versus the 220 first gear of the close ratio M21. But it's a better car for acceleration and for street use. The wide ratio is the way to go.
It's also got plenty of paperwork. It's got the original window sticker. It's got the Pontiac Historic Society paperwork. Got all the information, so they know everything about it. And we just hit 6 figures, ladies and gentlemen.
Pontiac gave the Trans Am special wheels, 7-inch wide, 14s, 1 inch wider than GTO.
Away it goes. for a 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. We're going to head into the vintage vault. It's always fun to look at the advertisements from decades ago, from 1969. This is the ad they sold for the Camaro. We got a mean streak, talking about the Z28. That's exactly the car that was rolled up onto the block. In this case, it's a matching numbers Z28.
Now, the last one that came across the block had a silver grille. This one is black. The grille color is determined by the exterior color. This also has the relatively rare plastic cover and painted to match the body bumper. The rest were chrome.
That's right, Mike. That's RPO VE3. It cost you all of $42.15, and 12,650 buyers took it like a 5-in-1. So pretty rare. You could get that on a 6-cylinder if you wanted. It wasn't specific to the high-performance cars.
And you see, oddly, that painted bumper was only in front. All Camaros had the chrome bumper at the rear, as this one does. D80 spoiler package and the 302 cubic inch small block with the double bump heads and the big Holly, just like Mark Donohue won the Trans Am Championship for Roger Penske in 1969.
You know, to me, I like to see the original bias-ply tires on these cars. This one has radials, which probably ride better and stuff, but it gives a proper illusion to me. And again, the bias-ply with its square shoulder just looks tougher.
According to the consignor, while it's been redone, there's also a lot of originality. The consignor contends that this has all of its original sheet metal. Even the original seat belts, they say, are original to the car and date-coded for this year.
Here's the 4-speed transmission. No automatics in Z28s until 1970 when the 350 came along.
$72,000, that's the hammer price on a 1969 Camaro Z28. And with that, we are going to check in with Dave Kindig.
Hey guys, I'm out here in the staging lanes, and this one in particular caught my eye. Lot number 1053. It's a 1961 Chevy bubble top. I love these cars. This one in particular is sitting nice and low due to the air ride suspension, the custom wheels, the LS motor, and the automatic transmission. There's not a better color, in my opinion, for one of these cars than black with a really rich caramel interior. This interior is really nice too. They've done a top stitch diamond plate or diamond texture, and it just looks beautiful, kind of reminiscent of like a Bentley or something like that. Just very nicely done, really clean details. I love the detail also down in the floor mats. Check out the Impala emblem, a little bit of chrome there. That really is a nice, nice touch. In my industry, they don't call it copying, they call it research. I might do that on one of my next cars. But what a beautifully done vehicle, the stance and the color. And also, check out the trim. A little bit of that caramel in the trim goes a long way, kids. Very well done. I can't wait to see what it does up on the block.
But just remember one thing, Dave. Originality is simply the art of concealing your source. $42,000, the current bid for a 1955 Chevy. This one, though, not a Bel Air, not a 210. This one is a 150.
That's right, a 2-door sedan. This one does have a radical difference underneath. An Art Morrison Pro Touring GT frame, replacing the original. Leaf springs long gone, has coilovers in the back.
Hammer down, $44,000 for that Chevy 150 from 1955. They put the sold sticker on, it's going to drive out into the sunshine, and we are going to take a break here at Barrett Jackson in Scottsdale.
Welcome back to Scottsdale, everybody. You heard us talking earlier about how the Barrett-Jackson show isn't just an auction. It really is the greatest car show on the planet, too. I mean, look at all these beautiful rides. You got the 57 Bel Air here. This is a 59 Cadillac Series 62 custom convertible. Right here, we got the Impala convertible. So much style in this era of automobile. The list just goes on and on. How you doing today, ma'am?
Great.
She's doing great. I think everybody is out here. This is a car that I previewed last night if you're watching us on air. This is a 65 Ford GT40 recreation with the gurney bubble above the driver's side. And of course, finishing out here with a 66 Nova SS Custom Coupe. So much to see, so much to do. It's all about the cars and of course, the people here at Barrett-Jackson. Guys, back to you on the block.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Yeah, I have friends who enjoy coming out to the Barrett-Jackson auction just to people watch. You know, they'll sit there, enjoy the food, tons of great places to eat here, and watch the cars and the people walk on by. Up on the block right now, we've got a big block 67 Corvette.
This This one has the 400 horsepower version of the 427, which means it has triple 2-barrel carburetors, but the mild hydraulic cam, 10 1/4 to 1 compression, not the 11 to 1 compression and solid cam of the Top Dog. You see here the aluminum intake, the triple carburetors, factory manifolds, manual brakes, manual steering on this one. So a nice workout.
Now this car has the original tank sticker. On a Plymouth earlier, we talked about the broadcast sheet that was laid in where the rear seat cushion would go. In a Corvette, when you're building a Corvette on the assembly line, one of the first things that goes in is the gas tank. So to the top of the gas tank, they glue a sticker with all of those production equipment codes so the workers know what to put on this car to match the way it was ordered by the dealership. So when the tank sticker is there, that helps you decode the car's DNA so you can restore it exactly the way it was built.
All the numbers were up at $120,000 right now. Yesterday we were talking about the fact that a lot of people didn't want to buy the 1967 Corvette because the 68 was a radical change in body style and people were waiting. In 66 they sold about 27,000. In 67, it dropped by 5,000 cars. $135,000, the final sticker on that one. That's the parade of 67s. We got another one, another big block up on the block right now, and this one is a convertible with a big block 427.
Well, you could get air conditioning with 427s, but the way you can tell this one doesn't have it is the plate is here. In fact, any Corvette with AC will have the plate over on this side because the plate would restrict airflow to the radiator, and the AC has an extra burden on the cooling system.
You got a choice of 2 blues on your new Corvette in 1967. The lighter, brighter color was Marina blue. This darker, steely blue color is Lindale blue.
On the wheels of this one here, we see the 15x7-inch rallies making their first appearance for 1967. Would also be seen on Z28 Camaros and in wider form on Corvettes all the way up into 1980.
Now this is a judged car by the National Corvette Restorers Society, so that provenance is moving the needle. We're at $160,000.
Yeah, it's been given top flight awards by NCSR 6 times. It's been labeled Bloomington Gold 3 times. It's a 2-time Triple Crown recipient. So once again, it has been judged, and it has been judged worthy, which is why you're seeing big numbers right here. Hammer down at $162,000, meaning that is now the number 3 sale of the day here at Barrett-Jackson on Friday. And we'll check in with Amanda Busick.
Well, guys, I have found a car from John Staluppi's dream car collection, this absolutely gorgeous 1955 Eldorado convertible. There's no car around her now because they've already headed to the lot, but don't worry, she's not lonely. There's a lot of people looking at her finished in white, this beautiful frame-off restoration. Check out that red leather. I tell you what, if I was a movie star in the 50s, I'm going to roll that top back, and that's where I'm going to be hanging out. Lot 1095, you'll see it here shortly.
Thanks a lot, Amanda. My daughter-in-law was here for the first time yesterday. Had never been to a Barrett-Jackson auction, and she came away loving the Eldorados of the 1950s. Everything about those cars. All right, up on the block right now, we've been talking ponies, and we got a real pony, a 68 Mustang GT. This one with a 428 Cobra Jet.
Well, that's right. This one was built for drag racing. Radio delete, W code rear axle. What's that mean? 4:30-to-1 axle ratio. This is a drag pack. So somewhere along the line, this car probably had a set of drag sticks on the back and was doing a quarter-mile sprint. But I love the radio delete on this one. Look down in the center of the dash. You'll see there the blank-off plate. This has the C6 automatic. So very, very cool one-time drag car.
Well, the original Bullet Mustang from the Steve McQueen movie was a fastback, but also in Highland Green. It sold earlier this month for $3.4 million. I wonder if that onrushing tide is going to lift this boat.
1967, of course, saw the debut of the 390 big block, but 68 saw the 428, and 2,817 were built with 428s.
$65,000, the hammer price on a 68 Mustang GT, and most importantly, with a Cobra Jet engine under the hood. All right, we're going to take it up a notch from a Mustang GT to a Shelby GT500 from 1968.
Well, this is the year that production of these cars, assembly, went to A.O. Smith in Michigan, and some say quality went up. This one is an actual Shelby, but does have a lot of modifications. We see under the hood a Sanders-type modern air conditioner. I see headers, an aftermarket carburetor, and some freestyle wheels on this one. If you ask me, Shelbys are too special to do this to. That's just me.
Big cast aluminum wheels specific to the GT500. There were 2 development cars for the GT500 program, and Craig Jackson now owns them both, the Green Hornet and the thought to have been destroyed Little Red. Craig not only bought both, but restored both, and they're on display here at Barrett-Jackson. At the front of this car, in the grille, you'll see twin rectangular driving lights. And at that time, there was only one company commercially making such lights, Lucas in England.
$100,000, the hammer price on a GT500 from Ford Shelby. Nicely done. According to consignor, 101,000 original miles on it. So I like the fact that it's been driven, hasn't just been held back. Don't forget, go to Barrett-Jackson.com if you want to check the cars that have yet to cross the block. They have what's called the docket. That's the list of cars, and you can see the cars that will be crossing today, tomorrow, and of course on Sunday. And also, when you know there's another Barrett-Jackson auction coming up, it's a great place to check the cars that will cross the block. All right, this is a 2019 Ford Mustang GT Custom. In fact, you might remember Chris Jacobs was talking about some killer customs, and this is one of them.
Well, amazing to see. This has a wide body kit made of steel. I've got my magnet out, the rear quarter panels attract metal all the way down to the lip. So yeah, not going to undo and crack like a plastic filler job would. This one has the mighty Coyote 5-liter V8, but with a supercharger bolted on for a good 700 or so horsepower. If you can't leave well enough alone, this is the car for you.
Kind of looks like a polished battleship in this gray. I'm not normally a fan of this color unless it's in a nice high metallic, but it really makes this car, with the black trim and with those big bulging fenders, look very, very purposeful indeed.
It's a fresh build, according to consignor, less than 250 miles on it on the odometer. Napa leather inside, Recaro seats, 2 inches wider in the front, 3 inches wider in the back.
Yeah, the Ford Performance catalog has been rated liberally. You see it has the carbon fiber tipped exhaust all the way around the back, and of course the hood is closed, but it has the supercharger, which you can buy right out of the catalog, bolt on, and still be emissions legal in all 50 states.
Being wider, Rick, I'm sure you were talking about the fenders and not those Recaro seats being 3 inches wider.
Although on more than a few days, I thought I could use a slightly wider seat. $75,000 for that 2019 Mustang GT Custom. All right, coming up in just a moment, how about a Plymouth GTX from 1968? But yeah, it is a Hemi. Matching numbers and everything. Be up in the block very soon.
Barrett-Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit Barrett-Jackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
In the high 60s. And a little bit of cloudy weather yesterday, but today the sun is out and it's spectacular. Of course, all these folks are saying, what do I need sun for? I got killer cars, killer trucks sitting right in front of them. 1970 Chevy K10 Custom on the block right now, already bid to $100,000.
Well, here's their magical combination. Fleet side, half-ton. Oh, this is a four-wheel drive, and that's not hurting at $100,000. LS3 under the hood, fully modern.
Yeah, it's got 430 horsepower under the hood with that LS engine.
Now 20. Asking 120.
Got a floor bidder involved, and you can hear the bidding going on with the telephone bidder as well.
LS3 engine, 430 horsepower, all that triple black, driving the number skyward here.
17 just bid 120.
Well, that was interesting. We had a couple of bidders, one on the phone, one on the floor. At the last minute, somebody on the block jumped in, bumped the bid by $2,000, and he comes away the winner.
Hell yeah. Nailed it.
Bitchin' Rides, new episode Wednesday at 9 on Motor Trend. Or start your free trial of the Motor Trend app to stream every episode commercial free.
Up on the block right now, we got a 1969 Camaro. This one's an RS SSA, but this one is a custom.
Well, it's wearing RS badging, which would be a custom touch because when you order both options, the SS trim takes precedence. You do get the RS Hideaway headlights. But so much has changed on this one, that hardly matters anymore.
Indeed, as the Corvette LS2 indicator says, this is the all-aluminum 6-liter. It's backed up by a 6-speed manual transmission, and I love the manual stick. It's double overdrive. What a transmission it is. I mean, first and second are nice and stiff. You can launch off the line, but then kick it into fourth or fifth or sixth and enjoy overdrive.
Magazine poll voted the 69 as the most popular Camaro of all time. So you see a lot of these resto mods, some of them built on the bones of original cars and others with reproduction sheet metal and built to a very high standard. Why? This is the one the bidders want. Here we are.
Yeah, this one got a lot of attention, drove it up to $110,000, and that's the final sales price on that one right there. But I tell you what, $110,000 doesn't even make it into the top 10 of the day. That would take more than $120,000. Let's check in with Chris Jacobs.
Thanks, Rick. Well, I got a candidate for the top 10 right here. This is a 1969 Beaumont. Did I fool you? Yes. This is the Canadian sister car to the Chevelle, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Pro Touring. Take a look under the hood here. That's an all-aluminum LS2 motor, 6-liter. Just gorgeous build here. And the inside, we got lots more Pro Touring touches too. Full leather interior, so comfy. All the modern touches. Budnik steering wheel, Budnik wheels, Wilwood brakes, MagnaFlow exhaust throughout. This thing is just absolutely bad to the bone. And if you count all the custom touches, well, I will not list them off for you now. That's what's going to propel it into that 6-figure category. Here on the deck lid, you can see Beaumont, a Canadian flag around the JH. That's the company that customized this 69. Beautiful car. Can't wait to see it go across. Going into pre-staging soon. Guys, back to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Chris. Yeah, the great thing about having a Beaumont, it looks slightly different up front than the regular Chevelle. So it's something unique that most people aren't quite going to get the first time they see it. That'll be up on the block soon. Meanwhile, we got a 1938 Ford Special Custom Roadster.
This one is all steel. A nice, refreshing change. Hood, fenders, running boards, all of that. It's got an LS motor under the hood. But again, a factory original convertible. Very rare body style then is now. Beautifully customized, very sleek.
Interestingly, they've got the seats from a Toyota Supra that they put inside. So it's quite a mix of stuff they've got.
Their suspension's beautiful. It has a Jaguar-inspired De Dion suspension with the differential disc brakes bolted or fixed to each end of the differential. Half shaft running out to each wheel. Beautiful billet, chrome-plated. This was a billet aluminum upper and lower control arms. Double coilovers on each rear corner.
Looking at the components chosen and the quality of this build, if you want one done and you don't want to wait and you don't want to spend up, here is your car. I think that's an incredible buy. You could not build this car to anywhere near this standard for that $85,000 hammer price.
The way it's going to go, because that is one nice car. That champagne two-tone paint, all steel, nicknamed the 38 Special. Rolling behind it, we got a 2012 Shelby GT500 Super Snake. This is one of the cars that you might have seen in the feature that Amanda and Steve did about the past and present ponies.
Well, indeed, this is the S197 Mustang, the first not based on some other vehicle beforehand. There it is, 1,000 horsepower. This has the 5.8 liter, and this is the second year for what Ford called plasma transferred wire arc technology. That means that the cylinders and the pistons ride together without an iron liner. Saves about 80 pounds per block to get rid of those iron liners and actually help the Mustang GT500 avoid the gas guzzler penalty in 2012.
What a big wide body on this Mustang. We're starting to see a lot of these combinations. The Super Snake wheels with a very, very deep offset to accommodate that wide body.
I think some of the first wide bodies, Mike. Remember the IMSA road racing Monzas of the 1970s? That
of course.
Wide body. I think that was the first of that genre, which we still see in effect here.
Well, you could buy a kit for a Monza called the Mirage from your Chevy dealer, but it was nowhere near as wide as this.
According to Consigna, they spent $190,000 building this. So to your point, Mike, somebody just got themselves a great deal. Let somebody else do the investment in it. Less than 750 miles on the odometer, and it just sold here at Barrett Jackson for $100,000. Time to check in with Dave Kindig.
Hey guys, normally there's carousels in this area, but they've done a really nice setup out here. And check out, speaking of nice setups, lot number 1066.1. It's a 1966 Chevy Chevelle. Now this one's actually sitting on air ride, black on black. It's got almost 500 horsepower out of the small block. What I really love about it is the presentation with the satin finish centered wheels, the black lip, and the black on black. The interior is fantastic as well. One of the things that I really was impressed with is check out the lighting that they've done inside this interior. They've got ambient lighting throughout the doors, the dash, and the insert through the seats. This is really, really well done, and I love the details in the seats. Check out the breathers. I've done that a couple of times, but I've never done black on black, and that just looks super sweet. Again, a little research goes a long way here at Barrett Jackson, and maybe somebody can do a little bit more research after they own it tonight. Let's see what it does over the block, guys.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Yeah, I think Dave and a lot of people are doing research on thinking about what they would put into their next custom. You see a lot of guys out here who do builds. And once again, it's great to get inspired by what somebody else has done. $95,000. That's the current bid for a 62 Impala.
Well, this is the car the Beach Boys sang about in their hit 409. In 62 at Chevrolet, you could have the little four-cylinder Chevy 2, you could have the rear-engine Corvair, or this, the full-size Chevrolet, with the Impala being the top of the line and the W-Block 409 being the big engine.
That's right, 1962, the 409, there were no compromises. They all had solid lifters, high compression, big port, big valve heads. No messing around.
No messing around, because we just hit $100,000 for that Chevy Impala SS409. Shake the hand, sign the paperwork, and that car is now yours. 1961 Impala right behind it, and this is the one that Dave Kindig previewed, and he was pretty impressed with.
Well, the shape of this is described as the bubble top. And note the shortness of the roof and the length of this rear window. Greatly curved, a lot of glass area, very thin C pillars and A pillars on this two-door hardtop. Gave it the name bubble top, and that persisted for several years at Chevrolet. Well, they've dropped all the air out of it, and this one is dragon frame up here on the block.
That's right, Mike. You know, the bubble top era started in 59, ran through 62, also seen on Cadillacs. But speaking of Cadillacs, this is an LS, I believe, maybe out of CTSV. Has some Hooker cast manifolds on the back, a custom intake manifold, backed up by a 4L80E 4-speed automatic. And again, its top gear is going to be overdrive for easy highway cruising.
At the back, note the shark fin antennas on top of the two fenders. Those were done for symmetry. One of them is connected to the radio. The other is there for styling symmetry.
Now you'll notice that we had somebody on the block who has apparently a bidder on the phone talking to him, and after a while it got difficult to relay, so the bidder assistant got on the phone and was taking the bids directly from somebody on the other end. And there we got a phone bidder as well who's involved with Barrett Jackson. That's that lower right-hand side person.
Very pretty build, especially this interior that Dave called caramel with Audi style diamond stitching in a contrasting color. Full-length console built specially for the car. Digital dash. Wow.
$85,000. Well, it took a village on that one, and most importantly, it took a good cell phone battery to pull that off. 1961 Chevy Impala. Rolling up behind it, now this is the car we gave you a quick preview of before we went to our commercial break, a 1968 Plymouth GTX. But this one has a Hemi under the hood.
That's right. Second year for the GTX, and Plymouth marketed as the GT Exterminator, as in GTO Exterminator. And with the 426 Hemi, frankly, there was nothing else that could touch Street Hemi GTX. These had 425 horsepower, which is more like 490, 500, and 490 foot-pounds of torque. But this is the elephant engine in its first appearance in the Gen 2 GTX.
They spell out Hemi instead of the cubic inches in that simulated vent on either side of the hood. The GTX also had quite a number of luxury touches, Plymouth trying to position it above Chevy's SS396 and Ford's Torino GT.
This one is a 4-speed, which means that it has behind the Hemi an 18-tooth input shaft versus the 23-tooth input shaft seen on 283s. They call that the Hemi 4-speed. So when you get the 4-speed and the Hemi, you also get a Dana 60 rear axle, which is also seen in Ford and Dodge pickup trucks. 9 3/4-inch ring gear, pretty much indestructible. Something seen on Hemi cars in front of the rear tire is a thing called the torque box. It's a reinforcement for the leading end of the leaf spring. Torque box is this structure right here, and what that does is basically help prevent metal fatigue. And I'm guessing the guys at the Proving Grounds realized, hey, these things with a 4-speed, they might start tearing up the unibody. That part is also seen on convertibles. Torque box.
You know, being a real deal 4-speed Hemi car, I expected more, but it's up to the bidders. This is valuation in real time based on who raises their hand.
There's no claim of numbers matching status. That might be the deal.
The final price, $69,000 when the hammer came down for a 1968 Plymouth Hemi GTX. Coming up, something completely different, a 1929 Packard 633 Roadster. Had a long-term ownership and a lifelong CCCA and AACA member. Great car.
In 1957, it was the Bel Air that was the top of the line for the Chevrolet range. But while we think of this as an automotive icon today, well, back then, this was just a temporary fix. They were in panic mode over at Chevrolet because Chrysler had come out with the Forward look. They needed something different. So while this car was being sold, this is the car that Chevrolet and GM engineers were working on. Radically different, longer, lower, wider, completely different every way on an X-Box frame. Now, let's talk about the styling specifically. This is obviously very upright, slab-sided in 1957. The belt line that dips right behind the door. And of course, it goes back to a vertical fin and a small tail light down below. Moving over to 1959, well, that vertical fin was gone. It was flattened out. Great big tail light, although that was only a one-year adventure. Then the sidelines completely flat, rounded sides. And of course, underneath the hood, well, in 1959, you could get a much bigger engine. 348 cubic inches, 315 horsepower. Think about it, just 2 years, 24 months. That's all the difference between these two cars, but a massive leap in style and design.
Barrett Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit BarrettJackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
In 1957, it was the Bel Air that was the top of the line for the Chevrolet range. But while we think of this as an automotive icon today, well, back then, this was just a temporary fix. They were in panic mode over at Chevrolet because Chrysler had come out with the forward look. They needed something different. So while this car was being sold, this is the car that Chevrolet and GM engineers were working on. Radically different, longer, lower, wider, completely different in every way on an X-Box frame. Now, let's talk about the styling specifically. This is obviously very upright, slab-sided in 1957. The belt line that dips right behind the door. And of course, it goes back to a vertical fin and a small tail light down below. Moving over to 1959, well, that vertical fin was gone. It was flattened out. Great big tail light, although that was only a one-year adventure. Then the sidelines completely flat, rounded sides. And of course, underneath the hood, well, in 1959, you could get a much bigger engine. 348 cubic inches, 315 horsepower. Think about it, just 2 years, 24 months. That's all the difference between these two cars, but a massive leap in style and design.
Interesting package there. Thank you, Rick. And it is amazing how much styling can change within a manufacturer in only 2 years. And we're looking at one of the cars Rick was just talking about here, the 57 Chevy Bel Air. It's going to be going across the block soon, so you'll see what it goes for and who it's going home with. Guys, back to you on the block.
Yeah, Chris, specifically, if you look at the Chevrolet range between 1954 and 1959, the cars in that range changed radically. Realizing it's only 5 years, it is a huge difference and a huge leap from one of those cars, 1954, all the way to 1959. Up in the block right now, another Woody. We saw some great ones cross the block earlier. This one is a 1947 Super Deluxe Custom.
Well, the original body on this would have had 4 doors, but it's much sleeker when it's rendered with 2, as we see here. This is an actual Woody, but again, from the firewall back, the wood is much more easily reworked than, well, steel. Under the hood, this has a Ford small block with 8-stack fuel injection, which means, of course, kind of the Hillborn look, where each cylinder has its own nurse in the form of a cylinder, ram tube. I love the big wheels, look like Steelies, but they're much larger, and they're made of billet aluminum.
Well, I tell you what, checking out the wood on this particular car, and it looks perfect. You know, we talked about a little bit earlier, as time goes on, it's not necessarily gentle to the wood, but this looks like it's been freshly done and cared for.
The inside of this one, the headliner is made out of wood as well. I'm trying to get this door open here and maybe take a peek at it. Anyway, take a look inside. The headliner is beautifully done with the thin bits of wood. A lot of time there, looking up. Imagine a lot of neck strain in the process of sanding and varnishing that, but beautifully done.
You have to understand, this is not easy to do. I mean, you have to have wood that's cured because you don't want that wood changing, popping, growing, and you got to keep the moisture out of it. You've got to seal it just right. Getting one of these perfect is not easy to do, so you can see, I mean, it really warrants the price that it brings when it's up on the block.
And this one has the Hearts cloth top, which, you know, if you get rained on, if you get stuck in rain, put it like that, this would absorb some of the liquid, not such a great thing. Of course, the factory topping on this would have been a solid sheet of textured vinyl.
Tell you what, $50,000 for all that work, all that wood, absolutely worth every single penny. All right, we got a 1957 Cadillac Brougham Custom Sedan that is up on the block.
This was Cadillac's first ultra-luxury vehicle in the V16 mode since the 1930s. And again, these were incredibly exotic vehicles, not to be confused with the Series 75 or 62. These have a brushed stainless roof, which is something that was teased a few years earlier on certain GM Motorama show cars, but beautiful cars. 1957 quad lights, the only Cadillac with quad lights in 1957. Of course, they become common in 58. But a lot of leaded-in components on the tops of the fenders. We see these faux grills, and if you had X-ray vision under the paint, you would see where these things were actually metal formed into the fenders. These were hand-assembled, not a common Cadillac. Very exotic stuff.
Yeah, and this one has been taken up, customized to a great level. I mean, it's got an LS3 V8 engine.
Set scoop in the rear quarter panel, however. Bud Moore's team took 2 of these to the Trans Am Championship with Parnelli Jones and George Fulmer. And as we pointed out, Ford won the sales race of the racer replica cars in the showroom for 1970 as well.
A little bit of freestyling on this one. The hood is closed, but this has a 5-speed manual upgrade and 4-wheel disc brakes. Now the discs up front are cool, but the rears are Willwood discs, so it's not 100% pure. Are these additional things good or bad? I don't know. I'm a purist. I want to see the original drums, but it'll stop better with those Willwoods out back.
So Parnelli Jones has signed this one, and one thing I really like about the presentation, and it goes with the car, along with a copy of the original invoice, the order sheet from the dealer. But look at the bottom of this display. Those are 1970 photos. Parnelli getting the checkered flag in the paddock and along pit road. And there's the signature on the visor. Very cool.
Hammers down $52,000 for a 1970 Boss 302. And don't forget, a little bit earlier we showed you tomorrow coming up, we have a Boss 429 that is going to be crossing the block. Not designed for the Trans Am, a much bigger beast. Up on the block now, a 1932 Ford Custom Roadster.
Well, all steel, that's a treasure. Nice thing to see. Small block Chevy underneath and a Turbo 400 GM transmission. But aside from the engine, this is looking very pure. Still has the original transverse front leaf spring, chrome front axle, and that's a dropped axle. And we have what look to be Kinmont style disc brakes up front, precursors to even the Buick. But these are actually SoCal Speed discs hiding inside of aluminum fin structures.
We often see these cars shorn of their fenders and running boards, but this is the way they left the factory, of course, with a much taller ride height, a much larger wheel diameter, and a much narrower tire. Looks much better this way.
Dual exhaust tucked out the back rear, kind of hiding in plain sight, not calling attention to themselves, which is okay.
I like the red wheels to go with the red interior, but I'd want to call Brian Frederick up there in Rockville, Connecticut, and have him just pinstripe the heck out of this in red to match.
It is nice. The axle and the frame have been painted red to complement the wheels. You kind of have to dig a little deeper on this one, but nice touch. Drive shaft also painted red. Kind of cool. This one is not a rumble seat. This is a standard roadster with a trunk for fire and cargo.
$72,000, that's the final price for that 1932 Ford Custom that Mike really wants to get pinstriped with a little red touch here and there. All right, let's check in with Chris Jacobs.
All right, can somebody get me a bib out here? I'm drilling a little bit. This 2017 Ford GT, Lat 1417, of course, going on Super Saturday. I mean, what can you say about these cars? They're a phenomenon of design and engineering. This is done up in the Verde Mantis exterior finish. What an amazing color this is. This car has only 538 actual miles on it, but it does have $82,250 worth of extras on there. $15,000 just for the extended carbon fiber package, which includes the leather-wrapped steering wheel. If you want those carbon fiber exposed wheels on there, well, those will cost you $15,000 as well. The Dark Energy package alone costs $25,000, but hey, all worth it, because I'm sure you're going to be the only one on your block to have a Ford GT. We got 2 of them going across, and I do not need to repeat it, but I will. No reserve. So this car will be going home with a new owner, whoever that winning bidder happens to be. And let me tell you, there's going to be a lot of zeros attached to the winning bid number. Guys, back to you on the block.
The odds are you'd still be the only one on your block that have one, even if it didn't have the extras. But that is going to be special when it crosses the block. 2 of them will cross the block tomorrow, and as you said, at no reserve. $100,000, the current bid for a '67 Chevelle.
Well, it's kind of a hot rod. Got a 509 under the hood with a Holley Sniper fuel injection system. Modified rear suspension on this one as tipped off by the center-mounted mufflers. I'm looking at a big old 9-inch. Coilovers in the back, 4 links. Everything's polished, molded. Looks good. $120,000 for a Chevelle nicknamed the Black Beast.
Congratulations. Check out that exhaust system coming out the back. As it drives off, we're going to take a break, but don't panic. We still have almost an hour to go of our Motor Trend coverage here at Barrett-Jackson in Scottsdale. The first thing you see when you walk in the door here at Barrett-Jackson is the Ford Manufacturer Showcase. And if you haven't guessed by now, it's all about performance. I don't care whether it's Mustangs, Ford GTs, they are all up there. Great to see. Even that Shelby Raptor, beautiful stuff, all at the front here when you walk in the door at Barrett-Jackson. Up in the block right now, we got a 1952 Cadillac Series 62 convertible.
Well, seen here for the first time on Cadillacs in 52 is the through-the-bumper exhaust outlet. That's a styling trait that would pretty much spread throughout Detroit and become a Cadillac thing right through 1959.
Beautiful 50th anniversary Cadillac.
$79,000 the way that one goes. A little while ago, we heard from company president, CEO, I should say, Craig Jackson, about a 1932 Ford Custom Roadster, and it has now appeared on the block.
Yeah, this one's fiberglass. It has the usual custom frame underneath, tubular upper and lower control arms chromed, coilover shocks, and sanitary. Beautiful. Let's take a look underneath with the chassis cam, and you'll see the aftermarket frame, underside of the polished aluminum small block Chevy. That's actually an LS engine, 4L60. Chrome drive shaft. Yep, there's a cooler, that puppy on the left. Tubular frame, body colored. Love the center exit exhaust. Nicely done.
During the break, one of the greatest super modified racers of all time, Bentley Warren, came up on the block to say hi. I said, hey, what are you looking at? He says, oh, I don't know much about these cars. I just know they cost a boatload of money. And if you know Bentley, you know I had to clean that up a bit for air.
Well, it varies. You know, there are cars that sell here at Barrett-Jackson that don't cost an arm and a leg, but when we reach prime time, Friday and Saturday, yeah, there's a bunch of money here.
I have to eat my words. This is actually a steel body, not fiberglass, and I think that's why we're looking at triple digits.
And you mentioned that it's got a reproduction chassis, a modern chassis, and this is titled not as a 32 Ford, it's titled as a 32 Special Build.
Well, this is what you want, because a reproduction chassis is going to be not only new, but perhaps made of thicker metal with a little more engineering in it and much more capable to handle the power of today's V8 engines that get dropped into these cars.
Hammers down $108,000.
Barrett-Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit barrettjackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
Back up on the block, from a 1932 Deuce to a 1948 Mercury Series 79 Woody wagon. Yet another Woody.
Yes, but what a beautiful restoration with its original 239 cubic inch flathead V8 engine rebuilt and in place.
Mike, if I can correct you, the Mercury's had a 255. I mean, same engine, but a lot of folks would actually sniff out the Mercury's to grab that larger engine to use in their hot rods. And again, this is the final year, 1948, for the old school transverse leaf springs, torque tube, 1949, a whole different creature.
52, thank you, 55,
No automatic transmissions until the 1951 model year, so if you can't work a clutch, you're not driving one of these.
course, all the previous Woodies come across have all been Ford Woodies. This is the first time we've seen the Mercury. And the Woodies have been going in this range with the exception of one we saw, a big, hot-rodded, beautiful one that topped $100,000.
Production on these, 1,889. Rare then, super rare now.
$54,000, that's the final price on a 48 Mercury Series 79M Woody. Don't forget, Barrett-Jackson.com. That's where you can get all the information about the cars that have already crossed the block, including the prices, including historical prices. So if you want to see, has there ever been a Mercury Woody that sold here before? That's where you can do all your research. Up on the block now, a 64 Austin Healey 3000. This one's a BJ8.
This is the final run of these big Healeys, because British Motor Corporation decided not to update them for the 1968 U.S. federal laws, and the U.S. was their biggest market. So you have roll-up windows, wood dash, folding top. This one has added chrome wire wheels. The original ones were painted silver.
1962 brought a somewhat curved windshield, replacing the straight across windshield. And 1964, 5, and 6, front disc brakes and aluminum drums in the back. The drums are available today, reproduction from Moss Motors for $339 a piece. So you don't have to worry if you have a worn out drum, you can buy a brand new one.
4-speed manual transmission, and these were available with an electric operated overdrive. The steering wheel is what we call a banjo wheel. The spokes or strings help to absorb road shock and not transmit it to your hands.
This body style actually goes back to the early 50s. Originally it was the 104, then became the 106, and ultimately evolved into the 3000.
Now, Healey folks will tell you, much like Super Bowls, there was no Super Bowl I. It was just the Super Bowl, and it was the Healey 100 until it became the 106.
Once the 6 came along, we had to call it the 4 to make the difference. But yeah, absolutely. $73,000 for 1964 Austin Healey 3000. Up behind it, a 1954 Oldsmobile Super 88.
What beautiful car, and look at this paint. It is modern base coat, clear coat. You can tell that from a long way away. And the metallic content in it, the metallic particles are finer, smaller than what would have been on this car back in 1954. But the brake for the two-tone, well, that's authentic Oldsmobile. Desert coral with shoreline beige.
1954 saw the Olds 303 grow out to 334 cubic inches. Or sorry, 324 cubic inches. The dual exhaust on this one is not factory stuff. Those chrome tips are aftermarket goodies. But again, V8 powered Rocket 88. This is a similar platform to the 55 Chevy, but Oldsmobile was built on a longer wheelbase. So while it's similar, it's not the same.
Brand new convertible top, beautifully presented.
And the price, $62,000. Don't forget, they have to add a 10% buyer's premium on top of that for that 54 Olds.
Welcome back to Scottsdale, everybody, for the 2020 Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. And yeah, we're getting into the high dollar cars. I've got one more Saturday preview for you right here. This is lot 1403, a 1963 Aston Martin DB5. Now, while it was manufactured by the British automaker Aston Martin, it was actually designed by the Italian coachmaker Carrozzeria. How's my accent on that one? You can see here the 4-liter inline 6. This is pretty trick right here, some extra spark plugs. Now, of course, this car was made famous by the James Bond movie Goldfinger. However, I don't see any rotating license plate or machine guns or smoke screens or ejector seats, so I don't think this was James's. But we do know that this is going to bring some high dollars when it crosses the block tomorrow. Right-hand drive, of course. This car was in England until 2008 when it was imported into the U.S. What a gorgeous car. I mean, timeless design. So cool. James knew what he was doing when he was picking out his car. Guys, back to you on the block.
All you need is a tuxedo, and suddenly you are James Bond.
Well, the movie car did $4.4 million at auction some years ago. Maybe that one will be a little more of a bargain.
Or you could just spend $74,000 and get yourself a 36 Ford Custom and have a little different kind of fun. Rolling up behind it on the block, we got a 67 Pontiac GTO Ram Air.
Well, 1967, Pontiac went from 389 to 400 cubic inches, single Rochester Quadrajet, and yeah, you could get the Ram Air. It was a rare factory option. Not sure if this one's claimed to be the real thing, but this is a metal pan, and that's very rare stuff.
But this is the one you want, because 1967 was the final year in Detroit for high performance without emissions equipment, without stiffer bumpers, without a lot of the things that were attributed to the safety nannies of the time. The purest of just about all high performance in sports cars, peak year 1967.
This one has the optional front disc brakes, which were first seen in 1967. It does not have the exhaust splitters, which were an extra cost option, so it has basic unadorned dual exhaust tips coming down.
It's got its Pontiac Historical Services paperwork. They've even thrown in a 1967 Pontiac brochure to go with the car.
Hood-mounted tachometer, a popular option among the straight line crowd, allowed you to see the RPMs without taking your eyes off the road.
That's right. There was a dealer option in 1967, factory in 68.
$58,000 for the 67 Pontiac GTO Ram Air. Time to check in with Amanda Busick.
His role as Brian O'Connor would celebrate him internationally to international fame. Paul Walker was a self-described car enthusiast, including over 30 cars in his collection, including these M3s and M3 lightweights. 21 cars will cross the block here in Scottsdale. 8 will go off on Super Saturday. This has been a beautiful tribute to the late Paul Walker.
Yeah, Amanda, that is quite a collection. Those BMWs, very special. He really cornered the market in those, and those are going to be neat when they cross the block tomorrow. 1957 Corvette. This is a 283, 245 horsepower dual quad.
Yeah, the dual quads are a pair of WCFB iron 4 barrels on an aluminum intake manifold. This has the 4-speed transmission, which arrived mid-year. Otherwise, a very clean restoration.
Looks like modern base coat, clear coat paint, brand new interior, and re-chromed bumpers and trim. Those knockoffs on the hubcaps are not functional. They are decorative. Those 2-eared knockoffs, trying to give your Corvette maybe the aura of a European sports car without the headaches of those spline drive wheels.
One thing about these cars is the bumpers here attached to the body, not the frame. So if you hit anything with this, you're looking at some fiberglass repair work. Again, federally mandated crash standards were a long way off in 1957.
You turn it at 75 is what you're turning in. $80,000. Jay Bryant, you want to get 77.
Now note the gauge in the center of the dash below the radio. That is the tachometer. You'll notice what looks like an odometer in the tach. It doesn't measure miles. That's the speedometer odometer's job. It measures engine hours, something very important to pilots and aircraft mechanics, and a touch that they brought to the early Corvettes. Engine operating hours reflected there.
Well, the 57 just sold for $77,000. Another big beast up on the block. This is a 2018 Ram 2500 custom pickup truck in honor of NASCAR legend Richard Petty.
Well, I asked Richard once about Petty's Garage, and that's the logo here in the center of the grill. And basically he says, well, they'll build you just about anything. Well, here it is.
Yeah, this is the 392 Hemi with a supercharger. So we're going from 390 or so horsepower to well over 550. Air suspension in place here. Not a factory item, although the rear suspension on F-150s, as Mike knows, is air on the light pickups, and it rides very well, correct?
Oh, it's amazing. It rides better than a pickup truck. My Ram pickup rides better than any pickup has a right to. It's fantastic.
Petty's Garage is kind of a job shop. They do release some limited edition cars, Challenger convertibles. They take on restorations, and they even build replicas of Richard's old race cars. So they do a bit of everything.
So this one's powered by Petty, but then Kelderman did a lot of the other modifications, the suspension, the big lift, and other ones.
And this was actually one of the prototypes for the series that they were going to be building, owned by Kelderman, and now it's being released for sale. $65,000 for a 2018 Ram 2500 with a Richard Petty number 43 connection.
Speaking of racing royalty, Paul Tracy just up on the block, having some fun here at Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale. Ryan Blaney, Jeff Gordon tomorrow. It's kind of a racers reunion here.
J.R. Hildebrand, the IndyCar driver, was here today. We've seen all kinds of people. Mark Martin was here yesterday. All right. The last beast was tall. This beast is wide. 1996 Hummer H1.
Yeah, this is just huge. It's about 2 city blocks wide. I wouldn't want to measure it. My tape measure doesn't go that far. But this is the civilian treatment of the military Hummer. There were lesser Hummers produced for sale through GM dealers while that was a thing, and it may be again. GM may use the Hummer name on a forthcoming electric-powered SUV.
Have a ton of ground clearance, no centrally located differential as on most, well, Jeeps and other pickup trucks. These have what we call a portal axle, offset gear train, massive lower control arms.
Well, these were built to a Defense Department budget. Somebody had a wish list of what they would do with the Jeep if they could completely redesign it and put everything in it that they wanted, and it got approved. It got built, and these went all over the world.
$72,000, that's the price for that 1996 Hummer H1. Behind it, a 2016 Shelby GT500. This one's a Super Snake.
Well, the Shelby Super Snake is a situation where you can have it done one of two ways, either right from the dealership, or you could drive your GT500 for a day or a week or a year and then send it to Shelby for the conversion with the upgrades with the Super Snake. Super Snake generally replaces the stock supercharger with a Kennebell unit, much larger. Of course, larger brakes, wheels, exhaust system upgrades, and body kit and graphics. And voila, you've got yourself a Super Snake, as if the GT500 isn't strong enough. These are legitimate collector cars now, and certainly as we go down the road into the future, these will be crossing the Barrett-Jackson block, I would say, for as long as this is in business.
This looks to have an extremely wide track, especially in back. Were the fenders pulled for these?
They were. Probably we have some quarter panel extensions that were blended in. Certainly it's a wide body kit. Looks very well done.
When you think about it, this was the ultimate in Mustang and Shelby performance for that year. Once again, you got a GT500 with upgrades.
Carbon fiber trunk spoiler, carbon fiber rocker extensions.
And then inside, you got Recaro seats. You've got everything you could ask for.
Similar to what Mercedes does with AMG with its Black Series, BMW with their M-Car competition versions. How much is too much? I don't know. More, please.
I like the dash pod with the extra gauges, the carbon ceramic or carbon fiber housing, similar to the dash pod used on GT350s in 1965. So sort of recalling cues and improving them in the modern day.
Now that came about as close as you could get to $100,000, but that gentleman saved himself a full grand by only paying $99,000. He seems pretty happy about it for a 2016 Ford Shelby GT500 Super Snake. Out of the Midway, we got live music going on because this place is a party.
And I know that she's the only one, and if I die in rally, at least I will die free. Yeah. Rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Yeah, mama, rock me.
You want to buy a here in Scottsdale, but the whole auction makes you kind of nervous. Well, these are the cars that are part of the Barrett-Jackson collection. You can just go up and buy. They've got a sticker price. Well, probably a little bit of negotiation to walk out the door, but you don't have to be a part of the auction. So if you get a little nervous, you can always buy that way. Or you can have the thrill of the hunt, and that's what this is all about. Up on the block right now, 1958 Chevrolet Impala convertible.
Well, a revolutionary year for Chevrolet. First year for the big block. Here's the 348 with 222 two-jet Rochester carburetors. Here's the end carb right there. There's 3 of them. Air cleaner is correct with double snorkels. This one has had a modern disc brake upgrade. That master cylinder is from a much later period of time. Beyond that, though, it's restored right back to brand new. A little bit of day 2, the Continental kit, and the rear fender skirts are things that were not standard on the assembly line, but certainly accessories you could buy from J.C. Whitney, or in some cases, Chevrolet dealerships had these things over the counter.
Well, the 57 is such an iconic look. This 1958 to me is such a beautiful look. It combines so much of the Cadillac inspiration and just takes it in a new direction. And instead of those vertical fins, it's got more of an angular fin. It's got a long, beautiful look to it, and just a one-year design. As we pointed out earlier today, the 1959 was such a radical departure. This is just a touch of the 50s, whereas the 59 was looking into the 60s.
Yeah, all the latest trends, quad headlamps, shaved hood. This was a dream car on wheels.
You know, to see dual circuit brakes on that, even with ABS, I think with these skinny tires and an older restoration, I think that's a perfectly acceptable upgrade, even on a nicely restored car like this. Like it.
$80,000 for that 58 Impala convertible. Well, up behind it, we got a 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon 840 horsepower.
This one's a little bit later in the run. This is 2401 of the 3,000 that they manufactured for the U.S. market, 300 for the Canadian market. Just to open up the hood to see that bad boy 6.2 liter putting out 840 horsepower if you fill it with 100 octane gas.
I love how Dodge went back to their history with the air grabber nomenclature added with the little devil guy in the middle. What an amazing package. 2.3 seconds, 0 to 60 on a prepared strip. That's a world record. Nothing's faster, nothing's quicker yet.
0 to 100 in 5.1 seconds, which is just as astonishing. I was just previewing the Saleen S7. That's not as fast as this Demon.
All right, so here's the question for you, Steve. What's going to become of this engine? The Demon has done its run. I don't think they're going to put it into a Charger. What's going to happen?
Well, I have to say it's going to live on, and I bet you right now there are evolutions of this that make even more power. The horsepower race is not over.
Where are they going to put it? What's it going to be in? That's what I want to know.
Well, you know, the next version was the Elephant, which is a 1,000 horsepower crate motor that will be eventually available for a Mopar that you can put into anything. So the horsepower wars, as you say, Steve, are not over. They keep going up. 1,000 horsepower, that's insane.
Here's a look inside. Fully carpeted trunk. You know, back in the 60s, a car that ran this fast would have been stripped. And it wouldn't have been this fast. In fact, the Hemi Dart is 2 full seconds slower than this thing is.
$97,000, 840 horsepower coming out of that Dodge Challenger Demon. All right, you say you like the Demon, but you just don't want it in yellow. You want something a little meaner looking. Well, how about this one rolling up behind? Another 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon. This one in Destroyer Gray.
Now, Destroyer Gray, a little bit more rare than obviously the yellow that we just saw. And also, Dodge no longer makes the Destroyer Gray for the Challenger, so makes it a little bit more rare. Also, it doesn't really matter in the Demon because they're not making any more of these anyway. This one's got the blacked out hood on it. Let's check the VIN. This is also late in the run. This is 2954, so quite late in the run, actually.
Take a look with the chassis cam at what makes the Demon tick. Here's that controversial chin splitter right there, the yellow. Underside of the 6.2-liter Hemi, there's the 8-speed torque flight. No manuals in Demons. Dual exhaust system running underneath there. Massive rear axle with a 9.9-inch ring gear, bigger than a Dana. Cast aluminum center, aluminum independent rear suspension, full-length dual exhaust with exhaust cutouts. Beautiful stuff.
And now we can see the price is already higher than the yellow one sold for. That may be due to the exterior color. I'm not sure because they're around the same number VIN. And Stevie mentioned that protector on the front spoiler. It's a big debate going around amongst Challenger and Demon owners. Do you remove it or do you leave it on? You know, some people leave it on there just as a status symbol.
That's a chin guard right on. They're making those in pink now to discourage people from leaving them on the car.
Which I think will make them even more popular.
Absolutely.
No matter what you do, people are going to do what they want to do when it's all said and done. Away that one runs. And we're going to go from that kind of power to Italian power. In this case, a 2010 Ferrari California.
So very early in the production of the California with its V8, its F1 paddle shift transmission, and most importantly, its two-piece retractable hardtop. It retracts right down here into this well. Still leaves some luggage space. Don't call it an entry-level Ferrari. It's got performance capability beyond most automobiles that you could buy in 2010. This was a just under $200,000 car new.
Mike, are those color-matched wheels factory or custom?
Oh my gosh, no. Excuse me. No, these are aftermarket wheels done to the owner's taste. The paint is Rosso Corsa Ferrari red. Yes, you can get the little cloisonné shields for about a $2,000 option. Everything is optional on this. I think the backup cam was about $3,000 or something ridiculous. You can tell the early Californias because the exhaust pipes are stacked. The later, the facelift model, the California T, has a more attractive rump and horizontal exhaust pipes.
$108,000 for a 2010 Ferrari California. We're going to take a break. Closing in our last 15 minutes of coverage here at Barrett-Jackson in Scottsdale.
All right. Let's see what the top sellers look like on Fabulous Friday. Top retail sale was this Eleanor Tribute Edition, authorized Tribute 67 Mustang. $300,000 was the hammer price. And the top two lots for charity. A Copo Camaro John Force Edition, brand new from Chevrolet. $600,000, all to charity. As was the top sale of the day. $2 million was raised for two great charities by the sale of this brand new Lexus LC500 convertible in 001.
Barrett-Jackson bidders want your car. Consign with the world's greatest collector car auctions. Our team will work with you to determine the best auction for the sale of your vehicle. Visit barrettjackson.com or call 480-421-6694 for more info.
Hours of our Barrett-Jackson coverage here of Friday on Scottsdale is coming to an end, but don't despair. We are back for 8 more hours tomorrow. 4 on Discovery, 4 on Motor Trend, and killer machinery that is going to be crossing the block. And right now, we got a 1969 Camaro Z28.
Well, this one has the Walker chambered exhaust, which was a factory option for a brief part of 1969. You look here, we see in front of the rear axle that dimpled piping, no mufflers. Those dimples actually tune and dull the acoustic sounds and quiet the exhaust somewhat. That's why I say they were legal for a part of the year, but most states you would get pulled over with these things if you passed a police officer with a bad attitude.
Those do for exhaust what dimples on a golf ball do to the air. Very similar theory.
This one being an RS Rally Sport has the reverse lamp built into the rear valance versus being in the reverse taillight lens. D80 spoiler standard on Z28. Or was it, Mike?
I believe it was. I believe, Steve, you could delete it, but I believe it was part of the package in '69. I'm sure we'll get emails one way or the other.
That's that hood, the ZL2 ducted hood, which was the option. I've seen real Z28s with flat hoods. They look kind of weird with the stripes on them, but they were built.
This one's in Cortez Silver. It's got the Endura front bumper. And it just sold for $65,000.
Well, we're climbing the clock for the final time this evening, so let's have a look at today's top sellers. The top retail sale of the day was this 1967 Mustang, an authorized Eleanor Tribute, bid to an eye-popping $300,000. The top 2 cars sold for charity, a John Force Edition 2020 Copo Camaro with a helmet and a suit and all of John Force's swagger, raised $600,000 for a great cause. And number 1, benefiting 2 fine charities, Inspiration Series VIN 001, unveiled earlier this week here at Barrett-Jackson. Lexus LC500 convertible, $2 million, all for charity, which nobody does like Barrett-Jackson.
When you think about this, over the last 2 days, all the vehicles that they've sold for charity have raised almost $4 million in total. And that is just in 2 days. And we got more coming tomorrow. Up on the block now, a 1970 Chevelle SS.
Well, this is the LS6, and a lot of folks wonder, the 426 Street Hemi or the LS6, which was the more potent engine? Well, I have to say, the LS6 had more compression, 11 versus 10 1/4 to 1 for the Hemi. LS6 has half-inch lift, solid camshaft. The Hemi is a hydraulic Hemi with 4-center lift. I have to give the LS6 the nod for having more real power in 1970. As far as what can be built into it, the Hemi has more potential.
Remember, Ray Allen had a match racer based on one of these, an LS6 convertible. He was here when it sold at Barrett-Jackson for 7 figures some years ago. Wasn't quite as pretty as this one in fathom blue and white. Gorgeous car.
And this one, being a convertible, will have a boxed frame. That means that the open side rails are boxed for more rigidity.
$80,000 for an LS6 convertible and all that look. Let's check in with Amanda.
We think our Motor Trend viewers will like this one. This comes from the St. Louis shop of Speed is the New Black, Noah Alexander. In his own word, this custom Nomad 1955, he said that from the powertrain to the over-the-top design, he gave it the nickname Gone Mad. Well, Gone Mad has been featured at SEMA. It was on the cover of Super Chevy magazine and even a top 5 pick at the Tri-Fi Nationals. Guys, take a look at that interior. It was designed to reflect a cigar lounge. If you look up, I'm going to have the camera pan up, there's a headliner there that looks like you're sitting in the hull of a boat. The beautiful part about this, what I love, while it still has the classic 1950s style, this one's just gone a little bit mad. We'll see this on Super Saturday. Roll across the block tomorrow, guys.
You know, here at Barrett-Jackson, the question you want to ask is how much is too much? I got news for you. You are never going to get an answer because there is always something more that's going to roll across the block and make you go, wow, how did they do that? $72,000 the current bid for a 1969 Dodge Charger RT SE.
Well, being an RT, this is a muscle version with 440 cubic inches. This one has air conditioning, which means that it's a fairly mild boulevard-type cruiser, 323 gears in the back. Not a 4-speed Dana car, but still 480 foot-pounds of torque, 14-second car, no doubt about that.
So the special edition part, that was the leather seats, wood-tone dash, special door panels, factory air conditioning, bright work on the pedals, and then add the vinyl top.
The SE in Charger didn't get a special roof like it did in Challenger from 1970, but again, you got the leather inserts, like you said, Mike, the vinyl roof, and all of that. The SE was available on non-RT Chargers as well as RTs. This has the flying buttress roof, as they call it. Unfortunately, this car's lift at high speeds in NASCAR. So for 1969, the Charger 500 had a filler panel here, a flat window. This is not one of those.
$72,000, that's the price for that 69 Dodge Charger. Now we're getting close to the end, just a few cars left of our Saturday coverage. Well, I should say, not just a few cars, we've also got a truck, a 66 Chevy. This was a C10 Custom.
Listen to this idle. Oh, they just shut it off. Yikes, and then they just dropped all the air out of it. This, you talk about a lumpy idle. You get a lot of overlap on the cam, and you can do that, and it's a rump, a rump, a rump around the burger stand. Pretty cool to do.
This 1966 is the final year for this first generation C10 cab design. And has a supercharger hiding underneath that bug catcher. A couple of sideways mounted Hollies. The beauty of sideways mounting is that you don't have the fuel slosh that you might have with straight ahead. And of course, also stacking two carburetors end to end is not possible. So you can put them sideways and they fit.
22s in the front, big 24-inch hoops in the back, low-profile tires, highly customized. Air ride, of course, as we've demonstrated.
It's got a bit of a rake to it as well, I think, as a result of those tires and the stagger that they put into it. It's got a powder-coated frame underneath. I really like the white and the way the wood bed shows off against the white.
All right, full disclosure, my Chevy didn't have a really cool cam, but I learned you could put a cutout in one plug wire with a switch under the dash and achieve the same effect going around the burger stand. Rump, rump.
Yeah,
Hey.
it had the sound, it just didn't have the speed.
Well, I've heard of having a mirror at the head of your bed. This is ridiculous, as they say. There's actually a mirror panel here reflecting the wooden panel inside. You draw your own conclusions on what that's all about. Here we see the opening to the fuel cell in the middle. Kind of cool, merged into the stock bed. Like that in there, put your fuel. Small window on this particular cab. Extra money gets you the full-size gap. You can see the panel is ready for either size. That's how you economize when you're mass-producing pickup truck cabs.
Great to see these trucks restored and here at Barrett-Jackson, because for a long time this particular generation was neglected among hot rodders and collectors.
I think it's safe to say this one has not been neglected at all. The way it's been built, it's got disc brakes all the way around, that big scooped ram air coming in the center. Of course, that bed with the wood. Beautifully done all the way around. Powder-coated frame underneath. A lot of time and effort went into this.
Had to be tubbed to get those big 24s under there, reducing the bed utility somewhat, but so what?
I think the word utility has nothing to do with this truck at this point. $52,000 for a 1966 Chevrolet C10. And now for something completely different. 2008 Audi R8.
Audi's mid-engine supercar, 4.2 liters, and the styling somewhat controversial. And the reason is what Audi called this blade on the side. You could get it painted to match the car, you could get it in a contrasting color, or as done here, for extra, you could get it in carbon fiber.
I love how this has a little peekaboo window. You can see the V8 engine underneath the back glass right here. Twin throttle bodies. Little dingy. This has been driven. You see a little bit of a little bit of dust and grease. No problem there. But throttle body 1 and throttle body 2.
This one's had a 2-inch drop and looks like it's ready to go to the racetrack with those Pirelli P0 tires.
Yeah, Steve, this one's got about 33,000 miles on it, although you realize the car is 12 years old. It hasn't really been, used a lot, but I like the fact that they've used it enough. Everything's been kept up in terms of, the engine's been moving. It hasn't been sitting around and reaching that point where you have to do other things to fix it up.
Big question among enthusiasts is, what is the new C8 Corvette going to do to the value of cars like the Audi R8 and the Acura NSX?
Because you realize at $60,000, when you realize that's the base price, you've got yourself a supercar now, a mid-engine supercar. As we said earlier, 4 of them on display here at Barrett-Jackson this week when you walk in through the manufacturer showcase. And VIN number 1, 001, will go on the block tomorrow. We got a bidder on the block. We got a bidder over the internet as well.
Upgrade exhaust system, upgrade premium alloy wheels, 2-inch lowering springs with mediums and
We're almost ready to have the hammer. They got a little more discussion. Will we get it before we go off the air? If not, well, you can check the price later.
Well, if Fantastic Friday blew your socks off, just wait until we bring you another 8 hours tomorrow on Shatterday. It all kicks off at 4 p.m. Eastern on Discovery Channel before switching on over to Motor Trend. So make sure you check out all the great content and the full docket list at barrett-jackson.com. And for the best in automotive programming, make sure you download the Motor Trend app, where you get all your favorite shows first and, of course, commercial-free. So for Steve Magnate, Dave Kindig, Rick DeBrule, Amanda Busick, and Mike Joy, I'm Chris Jacobs. We'll see you again tomorrow at 4 Eastern on Discovery.
Yes, sir.
Another perfect day in Scottsdale with the majestic tranquility of the Arizona desert. But we have two faces to show you today. The other is the closely controlled chaos here at Westworld for the 2020 Barrett-Jackson Collector Car Auction. Get ready. We got 8 hours of live coverage coming at you right here on Motor Trend. Thank you for joining us as we begin day 4 of our coverage, 38 hours in total on Motor Trend and Discovery. Right now I'm inside the Equidome, which is a new display room for Barrett-Jackson, and testament to the fact that this auction gets bigger.